We are running down the bowl history of every team in postseason play here in 2017 and 18 right here on Mark Rogers TV. We have arrived at the Foster Farms Bowl as we are live streaming on this Wednesday morning to get you set for bowl action throughout the day, starting with Florida State and Southern Miss. Please check out the other videos and the analysis that we have. This is a bit of an aberration, just going through history, running through dates and scores and memories that I have personally to share with you about, in this case, Arizona and Purdue in the Foster Farms Bowl, the bowl history of each particular program and the game itself. But besides that, if you're checking out Mark Rogers TV for the first time, you will see that we have a number of contributors across the country, the best bloggers, broadcasters in the industry from places like 247 Sports, SB Nation, and so forth and so on, providing you with college football analysis each and every day. Arizona at 7-5 in the Pac-12, 4-4, 5-4 in conference play. Purdue 6-6, 4-5 in the Big Ten. And Purdue back in postseason play after a long layoff at the Foster Farms Bowl, matchup of the Big Ten and the Pac-12, Levi Stadium, Santa Clara, and that's at 8:30 tonight Eastern Time on Fox. Arizona is 9-10-1 all-time in postseason play. It all began in 1921 with the San Diego East-West Christmas Classic. They lost to, I had to get this one straight, Center Praying Colonels. Center, that's C-E-N-T-R-E, Praying Colonels, 38-0 over the Wildcats of Arizona. That was at 1921. All right, bringing it up to date. 1986, the next bowl win for Arizona, defeating North Carolina 30-21 in the Aloha Bowl. Games of note include the 1994 Fiesta Bowl. Excuse me. Miami, Arizona, of course, we know the history of Miami football and where they stood in 1994, having won multiple national championships, I believe 5 at that point, and they were just coming off a national championship run, but they lost in this game just prior to going back to a national championship situation against Nebraska the next year. But on this date, it was Desert Swarm with Teddy Bruschi on defense, Chuck Levy on offense, that led Zona to a 29-0 thumping of the Canes. Go to 1998, another huge win for Arizona, defeating Nebraska in the Holiday Bowl 23-20 to conclude a 11-1 season in defeating Eric Crouch and the Huskers. Rich Rod, 3-1 in postseason play. His wins against the likes of BC and New Mexico in particular. They also defeated Nevada. So a couple of group of 5 wins included in the 3-1 start under Rich Rod. They lost to Boise State a few years ago with a new Solomon at quarterback in the Fiesta Bowl. They gained that berth, of course, because that was the 2014 season with Oregon playing in the playoff. And as the second seed, they got to the Fiesta Bowl in the New Year's 6. All right. This bowl game, the Foster Farms Bowl, began as the San Francisco Bowl, the inaugural game in 2002 between Virginia Tech and Air Force. It has since been the Emerald Bowl and the Fight Hunger, and I believe the Kraft Fight Hunger Bowl for a number of years before settling on the Foster Farms Bowl for now in 2014. Purdue at 9-8 out of the Big Ten. 9-8 meaning their postseason history is 9-8. It all began with the Rose Bowl, and we've explained this a number of times. The Big Ten could not participate in other bowl games beside the Rose until 1975. So a lot of Rose Bowls to start out Big Ten history in postseason play for these particular schools. Not Brian Griese, but Bob Griese leading the charge against USC 14-13 in the 1967 Rose Bowl. Mark Herman, the quarterback history at Purdue might exceed any other school. I'm not going to state that as a fact. I will state that off the top of my head as my opinion, unless I did extensive research off the top of my head. Bob Griese, Mark Herman, Mike Phipps, Len Dawson. So I've named 2 Pro Football Hall of Famers. Drew Brees, of course, will be a 3rd. Even Kyle Orton and Curtis Painter played in the league for quite some time. Jim Everett as well, an established quarterback who led the Rams to many playoff appearances in the 1980s. The Purdue cradle of quarterbacks has been exceptional, and I know I'm using a term from Western Pennsylvania. Mark Herman won bowl games against Georgia Tech, Tennessee, and Mizzou. In the Peach Blue Bonnet and Liberty Bowls in the late 70s, early 80s. Jim Everett, his only bowl appearance for the Boilers was in a loss to Virginia in the Peach Bowl 27-24. And I remember most of these bowl games going back to the late 70s and into the 80s. Drew Brees made his mark against Kansas State in his first starting season at Purdue in 1998. Kansas State was barely knocked out of the national championship game, the first BCS title game against Tennessee. They dropped all the way to the Alamo Bowl, and Purdue pulled off a stunning upset as a 7-4 team, knocking off the number 3 Wildcats in that game with Drew Brees at quarterback, 37-34. I remember this one well. Georgia and Purdue, Boilers led it 25-0, blew the game. Bulldogs came back and won that Outback Bowl 28-25. They rematched in the Capital One a few years later, and that was a back-and-forth affair in which Georgia won in overtime 31-24 over Purdue. Their last trip to the Rose Bowl and the last trip in many, many years, going back to that greasy team in 1967, losing to Tuiasosopo, the quarterback at Washington, and a very talented Huskies team that almost went to the national championship game. Washington defeating Purdue and Drew Brees 34-24 in 2000. Last 2 wins for Purdue in postseason play against the MAC in the Motor City Bowl and the Little Caesars Pizza Bowl, which is the same game, in 2007 and 11 against Central Michigan and Western Michigan. Last bowl game, not very pleasant, against Oklahoma State in 2011. Clint Shelf and the Heart of Dallas game, in which the Cowboys roughed up the Boilers 56, make it 58-14. Purdue is 2-0 in this series against Arizona. They won games in 2003 and 2005, most notably a 2003 game, 59-7. Purdue defeated Arizona. It's the Foster Farms Bowl, Big Ten, getting into postseason play against the Pac-12, Arizona and Purdue tonight. And we should enjoy that one with Khalil Tate and company going up against a very improved Purdue team under Jeff Brom. Appreciate you watching these videos as we run through bowl history, and we will catch you up on the remaining games right here on Mark Rogers TV.